Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing another premiere draft of Strixhaven. Today is the day that the midweek Magic Strixhaven bot draft event is supposed to go live. That's going to be a free draft of Strixhaven where you can take as much time as you need because you are drafting against bots. Was really excited to record that, so I've been sitting here waiting for 3.5 hours from the time when that event was supposed to launch, and there is still no midweek Magic event on Arena, so I guess we'll just play a regular premiere draft of Strixhaven for today, and today's video is going to be uploaded a little later in the evening because it would have been fully recorded and edited by now if the event started at the right time, but I digress. Let's just get into our pack 1 pick 1. We've got a really powerful Silver Quill rare. It's a super flexible card. It's always a 2-for-1. Can kill an opposing creature and let you draw a card or return something from grave to board. Super strong card that's worth taking even though it's not super flexible. If we wanted to be super flexible, Environmental Sciences would be the best pickup. That is a card you can take super early because it fits into any lesson board in the format very well. But again, Silver Quill Command, just a tremendously powerful rare. The kind of card we'd like to scoop up and then just try to stick to that if we can. That being said, I don't think Shadewing Laureate is actually that great. 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer. Whenever another creature you control with flying dies, you put a +1/+1 counter onto target creature you control. So this isn't actually the largest amount of upside for a 3 mana 2/2 flyer. By itself, it's just a 3 mana 2/2 flyer. You have to have additional other flying creatures for it to do anything extra. So it's actually not the most impressive uncommon ever. Not the greatest follow-up to Silver Quill Command, but definitely the simplest. We could go for Introduction to Prophecy that we can play no matter what, or we can just take the strongest card in the pack, which is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to take the Divide by Zero. The most awkward thing about this is it's the most awkward color of card we could take here, because there's no deck that's going to be blue, white, black very easily in the format. There's blue, red, and blue, green being the 2-color blue decks. That doesn't overlap with white or black at all. But Divide by Zero is just a really good deal. One of the best ways to learn a lesson. Bouncing any spell or permanent to its owner's hand and learning a lesson. Now you can only bounce stuff that costs 1 or more, but the only thing that stops you from doing is killing a token with it. There's no other like 0 mana permanents you really want to bounce in this format. Alright, pack 1, pick 3. Do we have a good follow-up to anything? Arcane Subtraction to go with our Divide by Zero would be fine, just more ways to learn lessons. Pest Summoning is an okay lesson to have access to. It's no Inkling Summoning, but it's a fine card. There's Spectacle Mage to push into Prismari. Silver Quill Pledge Mage is a fine card in Silver Quill. Not too difficult to keep giving this flying, where it's just like a 3 mana 3/1 flyer. Pretty decent deal. Cram Session's a pretty easy way to learn a lesson as well, but I prefer Subtraction if I just want another lesson learner. I think I'll go for the Silver Quill Pledge Mage this time. I don't think Arcane Subtraction is monumentally better than the Pledge Mage, so now we can just take a card to stick to our Silver Quill command there. Whereas I did think Divide by Zero was quite a bit better than the other Silver Quill uncommon we saw pick 2. Pack 1, pick 4, I like Leech Fanatic a lot in these kind of Silver Quill aggro decks. 2 mana 2/2 that has lifelink during your turn. A lot of ways to buff it in the format. Make it even more threatening. So we'll just take the Leech Fanatic, start curving out. No great follow-ups in blue for our Divide by Zero. No great Prismari cards or anything. Stormkiln Artist is fine for a longer game. But again, we'd have to ditch all the Silver Quill. We'll stick to Silver Quill again with this pack on the Leech Fanatic. And we are very happy to stick to Silver Quill in this pack. One of the strongest cards here is Combat Professor, a 4 mana 2/3 flyer. Can give a creature +1/+0 in Vigilance every turn. So you can target itself to attack as a 4 mana 3/3 flying Vigilance, already an exceptional deal. And you can spread that out wherever you need it to make your smaller creatures big enough to attack into higher toughness cards. So Combat Professor, very powerful, very flexible card. Happy to take it. Pop Quiz would be a sweet follow-up to Divide by Zero. But we're seeing enough Silver Quill cards here now with that pick 5 Combat Professor that hopefully, fingers crossed, we get to stick to the Silver Quill command instead. Alright, now we can take a Pest Summoning so that we have something in the lesson board at least guaranteed, even if it isn't a super great card, or we can take a Spectre of the Fens, which is super solid filler, a 4 mana 2/3 flyer that gives you a good mana sink to close out the game. giving you a way to drain your opponent for life, even if they have a million blockers on the board. So Spectre the Fens and Pest Summoning pretty close here. I'm actually going to go for the Pest Summoning, though. I'm going to make sure I have something in the lesson board to pick up. Because the odds of me not getting anything that learns a lesson is pretty low. I like Elemental Summoning a lot. One of my favorite creature-producing lessons. But, like, if we're Silver Quill, we're just not going to play it at all. That's only for the backup plan of if I'm still on the blue Divide by Zero deck. Is Spectre the Fens good enough to not speculate on the Elemental Summoning? I would take Elemental Summoning so much more higher than Spectre the Fens in a vacuum. With everything I have here, I think I just take Spectre. Sad day for that Elemental Summoning. Alright, another Leech Fanatic, perfectly happy with that. Arrogant Poet is also fine. Well, 2 mana, 2/1, you can give flying every time it attacks, but I prefer Leech Fanatic here. Spiteful Squad also okay, but kind of slow at 4 mana there. I like having all my 4 mana cards be flyers if I can for this sort of deck, but that's just me personally. I think Spiteful Squad can do a little bit of stuff. Pack 1, pick 9. Detention Vortex is not a good magic card. It is technically a removal spell, but your opponent just has to spend 3 mana at some point later in the game to knock it off of their creature. And this format is not quick enough to where that 3 mana matters all that much throughout the course of the game. Tested Talents is a solid counterspell, and Spectacle Mage is fine for Prismari. I'm not very big on Star Pupil, even in Silver Quill, so I'm actually going to take a Prismari card to go with Divide by Zero. Fill out that backup plan. Again, pretty unlikely. We're still getting some decent aggressive creatures for Silver Quill. And we have our strongest card in Silver Quill, but now we've got Divide by Zero, Spectacle Mage, Pigment Storm towards Prismari, the blue-red deck, as a backup, which is nice. Alright, Academic Probation. Very, very narrow lesson, but you don't ever draw it. You specifically just put it in your hand when it would matter. What's good about it? Ooh, Expanded Anatomy is a great aggressive lesson. This is one of the best cards to put on like your Leech Fanatic or something. Big fan of that. Devastating Mastery is also a very powerful card, just being able to have a board wipe in general. However, I think board wipes are a little bit weaker in this format than most because there's so much card advantage and value in general that there are a lot of late game board states, or just a lot of late game positions where your opponent's just always going to have 2 or 3 extra cards in their hand at all times. So it feels less likely that you like really blow up the board state against an empty-handed opponent in this format. So that plus the fact that we're generally an aggressive deck means I think I like taking Anatomy over that. There's also really powerful red cards with Igneous Inspiration and Literal Lightning Bolt. Those are both absurd cards. Cheap burn spell, draw a card, or just cheap instant speed burn. That was a really powerful pack. We'll go for that Expanded Anatomy there. Another Divide by Zero. Yeah, if I knew I was going to open the actual nuts there, if we took that Elemental Summoning last pack, take the Lightning Bolt there, take a second Divide by Zero here. Yeah, that would have been pretty sweet. But instead, we're kind of on the Shadewing Laureate game plan at this point, pretty committed to Silver Quill. Okay, Environmental Sciences is nice to have. We have nothing that learns a lesson in white or black yet. We really need to pick those up super highly in the future. But I'm more than happy to take Sciences here. Expel's the second best card for us here. It only exiles tapped creatures, so it doesn't work great on the aggressive. But I think it's better than Dueling Coach. This card is just really slow. And we already have 1 Spectre, and Ageless Guardian just doesn't do anything. Alright, fingers crossed. Let's get some learn spells. There we go, Rise of Exodus, that's fine. Very slow removal spell, but very good value. Exiling a creature, exiling an instant or sorcery from our opponent's graveyard, and learning a lesson. Huge value play. Very happy to take our first way to learn a lesson here. Silver Quill Campus, also a fine pick. Lash of Malice, a fine pick. But definitely going to get my first way to learn a lesson for this deck. So Pillar Drop Rescuer or Pilgrim of the Ages, neither of these are perfect for this deck. I like Pilgrim a good amount. A 3-mana 2/1 that draws the plains. It's already a decent little 2-for-1 value play. I don't like Show of Confidence very much. It's pretty high variance. Sometimes it's going to absolutely blow your opponent out, and sometimes you're just going to top deck it with no cards in hand. Yeah, we'll get another 3-drop creature here. Grab the Pilgrim of the Ages. This looks very solid. Pretty low on removal, but we're still early on. I'm still only at 10 out of 23 cards in the deck. Stonerise Spirit's pretty bad. Fracture doesn't kill creatures, only artifacts, enchantments, or planeswalkers, which is just too narrow. I'll just take Introduction to Annihilation. Could have had 1,000 copies of Burying Books. We really could have been the blue deck here. Kind of sad looking back on that, but I do think it is too late. Guiding Voice and Study Break, both great ways to learn a lesson. I think I prefer Guiding Voice in this deck. It's really, really nice on a Leech Fanatic. It's also a cheaper way to learn that lesson. Really good on a Silver Quill Pledge Mage as well. Yeah, I'm very into the Guiding Voice. Such an efficient way to learn a lesson. Lash of Malice also good, but we got to get some more learning going on. We got to study up. Take another Spectre of the Fens over an Exhilarating Elocution. Need a really wide board state for this card to pop off. If you do, though, it can be a potential finisher, but I'd rather just have the really good, well, the really solid flyer that has that life drain ability later. Well, we wield Devastating Mastery. That's probably a decent sign for white. Got some pretty solid combat tricks. Got a Mage Hunter, but I already have 3 4-drops. I'm just going to take Devastating Mastery. I don't even know if I'm that excited about it. Alright, most decks I wouldn't play Biblioplex Assistant, but maybe a deck that has Devastating Mastery and Silver Quill Command actually gets enough value from just recurring one of those, even if we have to skip our next draw step to do so. Alright, we're getting there. We're getting close. 15 out of 23 cards now. We gotta find 8 playables next pack, hopefully. Fill out the deck, and hopefully it'll be a pretty sweet one. Alright, well there we go. Pack 3, pick 1. We've opened up Silver Quill Rare. It's a pretty powerful one. A 2-mana 3/2. You choose a non-land card name. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with the chosen name, they lose 3 life and you draw a card. If you can trigger it consistently, it's super powerful. So if your opponent happens to learn a lesson before you draw the Silver Quill Silencer, you get to play the Silencer and name the lesson that they put in their hand, which is absurdly, absurdly powerful. It's also a great aggressive body. That being said, Flunk is really efficient removal. Giving a creature -X/-X, where X is 7 minus number of cards in the controller's hand. Should probably just take the Flunk here. But the Silencer is really cool. I'm still going to go with Silencer there. I guess Silencer's slightly more likely to wield, but I'm pretty sure both of those are like a 0% chance. Alright, beautiful pack here. We have Mage Hunter's Onslaught for unconditional removal, or we have Umbral Juke, which can make our opponent sack a creature, Planeswalker. So if our opponent only has 1 creature on board and it's good, then this is removal. If they don't, we just get to make a 2/1 flyer at instant speed. 3 mana for a 2/1 flyer just at instant speed is just a decent aggro card for this kind of deck. I'm going to take the Umbral Juke over the Onslaught here. Another Rise of Exodus, very happy to see that. We'll take that over another 2-drop or a little 1-drop aggro dork. Could try to splash in a Venerable Warsinger. There's been a lot of great red. Another Igneous Inspiration here too. Oh, Inkling Summoning. Such a good lesson. What am I taking this over? An Owlin Shield Mage, pretty much? That's about it. I do need more main deck playables, which is awkward. But I cannot resist Inkling Summoning. This is one of the best lessons to have, because just flying evasive creatures in general play pretty well in the format, so being able to tutor one out whenever you learn a lesson is really strong. Hunt for Specimens is such a premium pickup for us. It gives us a main deckable card that also makes all of our lessons better, because it gives us another card that learns a lesson. Join the party, Hunt for Specimens. Huge one. Oh yes, this final pack is really working out for us. Now we get a closing statement, which if we cast this during our end step, is 3 mana to destroy a creature or planeswalker we don't control and put a counter on one of our cards. Absolutely absurd rate. Closing statement is gonna be wonderful in here. There's a second expanded anatomy, but I'm at 20 out of 23 non-land playables. So I think I need to just have 1 expanded anatomy in the sideboard. Scoop up another creature like Leech Fanatic here. Alright, pack 3, pick 8. We'll take another Leech Fanatic. Got 5 non-creature spells. All the lessons we can pick up. Oh, 6 of them. Yeah, 13 creatures. Yeah, sure. We'll take another Leech Fanatic. Introduction to Prophecy for the sideboard, or Silverquill Campus for the mana. Either way, we're not getting our 23rd playable right now. We do have a quadruple white card in this deck that we're probably running, just because we're going to need a 23rd playable, so... yeah, Silverquill Campus could work out for us. We don't have any 1-mana cards either. I'm not going to play an Ageless Guardian. Yeah, 100%. I'd rather play an 18th land than an Ageless Guardian, so I'm just going to put a Dina in the sideboard for Vault Progress. Rather play an 18th land than a Detention Vortex. Alright, here we go. Cogwork Archivist. Very filler, but could make the cut. Stonerise Spirit, very filler, could make the cut. All 3 of these could actually make the cut. I'll just take the 6-drop. That'll be my big creature to end the curve. Although Elocution might be better than that. With this many 2-drops, that could actually be the 23rd playable over the Archivist. I disagree with the Dusk Mage, though. I think all our other 3-drops are better than that. Just don't put +1/+1 counters on our creatures that consistently. I've got a Guiding Voice, I've got an Expanded Anatomy in the sideboard, and a Shadewing Laureate in the deck. Those are the 3 ways. With Elocution, that would be a 4th way, but it's still not consistent enough, really, to make the 3-mana 2/3 super worth it. So I'm going to cut that 3-mana 2/3 out, and the question is between cutting the Elocution and the Archivist. Now, I need to sort all my token producers up to the top as well. We technically have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 creatures. Actually plenty. Plus everything we have that learns a lesson can grab a summoning. We've got 4 cards that do that. 2 of them are cheap enough to matter. The Rise of Ecstasies, though, late enough in the game, I'm not really going to count those towards creature count. I think we've got enough creatures here to cut the Archivist and run the Elocution as another potential finisher when our board state is wide. Seems pretty sweet. Sweet in general. I guess I could cut the Assistant for that. It's the other potential play, or the Devastating Mastery. Our 23rd playable is going to be awkward or bad. Devastating Mastery is not a bad card, it's just potentially awkward in here. Assistant and Archivist are kind of just bad in here, though. They're pretty slow. We do live the dream now and then where we play an Assistant, put a Silverquill command back into our library right on top. And I really just don't have anything else to swap these out for that isn't also awkward or slow. Yeah, I think we'll call it a deck there. Make sure our mana base looks solid. Duress, please get out of my face. Oh my god, what is going on? Alright, there we go. We have 18 black cards, 12 white cards. So we've got more black than white, but I have a quadruple white card, so I think I'm going to keep it as the even split, and we'll call the mana base there. Call it a deck. Alright, here we have a look at today's deck. It's going to be a Silverquill aggro deck, a very stacked one at that. We've got a very nice curve of 2, 3, and 4 mana creatures. a bunch of cheap creatures with a lifelink with 4 copies of Leech Fanatic. Then we kind of turn into a bunch of flyers, 3 mana and up. We pivot into Umbral Juke for a 2/1 flyer, Silverquill Pledge Mage being flying every time we cast an instant or sorcery, the Laureate being a flyer, and then at 4 mana it's just all flyers, Combat Professor, Triple Spectre, and Biblioplex Assistant. So it's like a bunch of lifelinkers and a bunch of flyers to keep us ahead in the early game and then close out the game even if our opponent sets up some pretty good blockers. We've also got a decent amount of cards to learn a lesson. And that is how we are drawing cards here, how we are keeping up throughout the game. We have cards like Hunt for Specimens and Guiding Voice to learn a lesson in the early game, and 2 Rise of Ecstasies to clear out a creature and learn a lesson in the late game. For lessons, we have Inkling Summoning and Pest Summoning being the ones we're going to grab early game most often. Honestly, it's probably going to be Inkling Summoning and Expanded Anatomy the most often, but if we really need mana, we can also pick up Environmental Sciences. And then late game, when we're just trying to close out the game, we have Introduction to Annihilation to exile an online permanent, and Academic Probation to stop 1 blocker for 1 turn. So that isn't all we have in the deck, though. We've got 2 bomb rares, one of them a lot better in this deck than the other. We've got a Silverquill Command that's going to be a huge finisher, giving one of our creatures +3/+3 flying till end of turn, and reanimating a creature, or having somebody draw a card and somebody else sacrifice a creature. A lot of flexible ways to use the card to help close out the game. A very, very good play. And then Devastating Mastery. This is the most awkward card in our whole deck, but we kind of needed something for a 23rd playable. And I do think that board wipes are still strong enough and limited that it's going to be okay in here, but it will probably be one of our weakest cards, because generally the way we want to end the game is by having a ton more creatures on board than our opponent does. So Devastating Mastery is really just an absolute backup plan kind of thing. We just didn't have anything much better to put in. So we're just going to be open to having that sort of backup plan, alternate win condition, if our opponent manages to somehow just dramatically out-aggro us. That's probably my least favorite card in the deck, just because it's a pretty big minus on the synergy scale. But outside of that, though, really consistent, synergistic aggro deck. I'm very excited to play around with it and see how it does as we get into the gameplay. Here we are on the play for game 1. We're a deck that has like 8 2-mana creatures, so I'm kind of interested in mulliganing this to see if we can hit a 2-drop. There's also the fact that we have to hit a black source to play these specters on turn 4, so we might just be playing a Pledge Mage. Pretty awkward hand overall, and I will mulligan. Alright, we did hit a 2-drop into 3-drop into 4-drop here. But the Assistant's really weak without an instant or sorcery engrave, so I'm actually going to ditch that over the Rise of Extus. I think that's still such a powerful late game play that I'll keep it in my hand over the 4-mana 2/1. Start things off with a Leech Fanatic, pass the turn. Professor of Symbology from our opponent will offer the trade, see if we can get that out of the way. That is a very powerful card, one of the best uncommons in the whole format, but our opponent doesn't have a lesson to learn here. They're just going to discard a card, draw a card. So maybe they're just stuck off of a second color and wanted to swap their planes out for potential mountain or swamp. So that must mean they don't have an Environmental Sciences in the sideboard. Ew, Aegis Guardian is actually very annoying here. Looks like just Elocution with only 1 creature out, but that feels not the best. Play our Poet and pass the turn. Well, I guess it's Elocution time then. Don't really want to put all my eggs in one basket. Yeah, I'll target the Poet here, even though Pledge Mage is a lot better to have the counters on later. This plays a lot better against a removal spell from them. Study Break it is. Discard a card, draw a card. Yeah, they're just really digging for the red source. It looks like they discarded a red card to draw a card. So them not having drafted an environmental science is really painful for them there. Might have to bite the bullet here, and I should have just buffed the Pledge Mage to trade into the Guardian, just get it out of the way for the rest of my deck, but I do have a lot of flyers in my deck to jump over that. Opponent's hand must just be all removal here. Yeah, if I try to trade Pledge Mage into Guardian, I'm just going to be out of creatures when I've got 2 removal spells in hand to get out of the way. I think it's actually fine that I haven't sent the Pledge Mage in, offering a trade. Hardened Dust Speaker, we need to hit that 6 land right now. Alright, well, that's really bad. So they can put an instant or sorcery from their grave on the bottom of their library. And then they get to just draw 2 cards every time they do that when it attacks. Yeah, our opponent's now just going to start grinding out a lot of value here. They've already played 2 heated debates, so the odds of them having a 3rd or 4th are pretty low, but I do just kind of want to name an on-color removal spell. Not a lot of great white removal that I can remember. I'll just go for like Igneous Inspiration. The uncommon red burn spell, since they've already they already blew a ton of copies of heated debate. Yep, they just straight up draw 2 cards here. And the best I can do is 2-for-1 trade myself after they just drew 2 extra cards. I just need to hit the 6th land for Rise of Exodus. Now, even if we hit it next turn, they've already gotten a 3-for-1 off Dust Speaker. Oh my god. It's not a land. I mean, I guess it's sort of a land because it pulls the planes out, but Dust Speaker gets another attack in now. They get to draw 2 more cards. Surprised they went for the pre-combat Light Scribe, but that must mean that they're just going for some massive combat tricks now. Alright, at least they just hit land, but that still gets the 2 lands out of the way. Digs nice and far, scries with the Mentor. So if they play any combat trick anywhere, their whole board's going to get +1/+1 from this Lean and Light Scribe now. It's actually just going to be a devastating mastery game. That is rough. We do not have any good blocks here. If they play a single instant, they ruin any of these blocks. Even if I make double blocks, just a combat trick with the +1/+1 is likely to kill both my creatures and save whatever I double blocked. Right, because if I double block here and their combat trick is like at least +2/+2, then it's going to have 7 toughness after the Light Scribe. Yeah, this is just horrendous. Now they just get to combat trick the Twin Scroll Shaman here and deal 1,000,000. Save the Stonebound Mentor. Yep. Now they have an Expanded Anatomy. We're on board wipe or bust. We are 1 mana away from it, so we need to hit a plains and then hit it next turn, but I don't even know if I survive another turn at this point. Probably have to get rid of the Light Scribe, because if I don't, that Anatomy is going to give +1/+1 to their entire board, but that just means they're going to draw another 2 cards off Dust Speaker now. Alright, we're probably... Actually, we're just already dead on board. That's so rough. Well, what can you do there? The one pivotal turn of this game was needing the 6th mana for Rise of Extus to stop the Dust Speaker before it drew them any cards. If we managed to hit that 6th land on that turn before the Dust Speaker declared any attacks, this game could have gone dramatically differently. But outside of that, there was not a lot we could do. Our opponent just did a very good draw. Did a very good job drawing out of the monocolored keep. And into just explosive plays. Yeah, some bad beats there. We definitely did not draw as well as we needed to. Here we are for game 2. Opponents on the play. We've got a very keepable hand. Curve out 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop as you do. Alright. Well, now our turn 3 is going to change up. We're going to play a second Leech Fanatic and Guiding Voice. Going to be pretty spicy. I guess if I wait till Pledge Mage is on the board, I get that flying on it as well. Opponent is feeling antsy with their removal. They're immediately going to eliminate our 2/2. Pretty cool with me. 3-drop, 4-drop, 4-drop, or do I do 2 and Guiding Voice? If I Guiding Voice to pick up a lesson, I'm just going to want to pick up the Inkling Summoning, the 3-mana creature. I think it's better to play the Pledge Mage here, and then that leaves me open to being able to Guiding Voice the Pledge Mage and cast an Inkling Summoning in the same turn. Like if I Leech Fanatic and Guiding Voice, pick up the Inkling Summoning right now, my hand is then 2 3-mana cards, 2 4-mana cards. It's going to be really hard to cast 2 of those in the same turn. This way I have flexibility with casting Guiding Voice and whatever I pick up off of it in the same turn. Part of what's so good about the Guiding Voice, because it's just 1 mana to learn that lesson. You spend the 1 mana to put a counter on something, and then the 3 mana to play a 2/1 flyer, and you basically turn it into 4 mana for a 2/1 flyer and a +1/+1 counter, stuff like that. Ooh, well, since they didn't hold up a blocker, I don't need to cast an instant or sorcery to hit them, and then we can just play double Leech Fanatic now. Get this board state nice and wide. Either one of these is a 1-for-1 trade for Servan, which is fine. There's a Witherbloom Pledge Mage from our opponent. Now we are going to want to try to jump over that. Rise of Extus in hand, I could actually be convinced to pick up an Environmental Sciences here then. That would get us to our 5th mana, and if I hit a 6th, we get to Rise of Extus, get that out of the way. This seems reasonable to me. And then, of course, whenever we cast the Rise of Extus, we can pick up the Inkling Summoning at that point to get another flyer. I'm cool with races. If they want to hit me for 8, I'll take it. I've got a lot of potential lifelink on the board. 4 power from the Leech Fanatics, another 4 from Pledge Mage if I cast an instant or sorcery. They're definitely considering it. They're going to send in just the Pledge Mage. Well, we'll take it down to 18. I'm going to buy you, Groff, is the play. Now they have a 5-4. Oh my god. Oh, well, that's going to be good when we hit the 6th land. But now I don't do anything this turn. Just play a Spectre. Umbral is another flying creature. If I cast it right now, I get to attack with Spectre and Silverquill Pledge Mage for 6 and play a flyer. Got pretty decent attacks back at us, though, if I don't hold the Pledge Mage up as a blocker. I feel like it's also reasonable to just play another Spectre for now. Play it a little safer. Because we've got this double Rise of Exodus in hand when we hit our 6th land to change it into a position where we're just attacking like nobody's business. That's not good at all. Whenever one or more of their creatures die, one or more of their non-token creatures die, they get a 2/1 Inkling with Flying, which is going to be a 3/2 because all their tokens get +1/+1. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Now, every time I trade, they just still get a creature back. They're at 15 life. Can hit them for 8 in the sky this turn to put them to 7 life total. If I play Umbral Juke right now. Then we just need to chump block a little on the crackback, and if I hit any land, they're dead. Because I just use a Spectre ability and hit them with all of those for 6. Or I could just play a Rise of Exodus and jump the Pledge Mage in the sky. I think I have to go for it. Yeah, so I have 6 flying power on the board. And any land lets me drain them for 2 life with Spectre of the Fens. Or any instant or sorcery lets me jump the Pledge Mage into the sky, and then I have 8 flying power on the board. So those are the 2 ways to try to kill them. Problem with that is they do have a Witherbloom Pledge Mage, gaining them 1 life if they play any instant or sorcery. But they need to play 2 to get out of reach of Spectre of the Fens' ability. And even if they do play 2, they need to be not dead to taking 10 damage if I hit a land. So if I hit any land or any instant or sorcery, we're attacking for 10 in the sky. This might be that reach combat trick. Whenever you gain life, you can spend 1 to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and give them all trample. So they play any instant or sorcery, they buff the whole board and give it trample. We found our 1 tap land. That trample is so bad for us. So attack with the worst blockers against trample. The 1 toughness thing. I'm still kind of just locked in to win the game if I hit. If I survive a turn, because I have hit the land, it's just tapped. If I start playing these Rise of Ecstasies, so I think I only attack with the 2/1. But that's like only 1 extra toughness on blocks, so we might as well get that damage in there, make it easier to kill them on the next attack. So we can kill them even through a removal spell or 2. Although if they play 2 removal spells and have the mana up to trigger Lysette, then we're just gonna die. A lot of combat tricks we could die to here when they have Witherbloom, Pledge Mage, and Lysette on board. Probably just accept death. If they've got a trick. Yeah, if they have any combat trick. In green, it's probably like +3/+3 or something. Like big play. Then they have, because Witherbloom Pledge Mage gains them a life, and then Lysette puts a counter on everything, they have 4, 5, 10, 11, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21 power with trample. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 21 power with trample without counting the +3/+3, which is 24 power with trample. I don't want to kill the servant and give them a blocker. But I guess with Rise of Exodus, we can afford to do that if they don't have the trick. If they have the trick, I just die. Straight up. Even if I block with everybody, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 against 20. I take like 10 damage if it's a +3/+3 trick. Alright. No trick, but they do get a flyer because of the way I blocked. But I can clear that out with Rise of Exodus. They have a removal spell as well. They have a removal spell as well. I'm dead no matter what I choose to do. By Rise of Exodus and attack, I hit them down to 1. By Elocution and attack, I hit them down. They block 1. Only one of them will be left because they block 1 and they kill another. So I hit them for 3. Put them down to 2. And if I attack and then try to post-combat Spectre, I also die. Yeah, I'm just dead no matter what if they also have a removal spell here. But if they have an instant speed removal spell, they could have just killed me last turn. You could... Oh, that's so tilting. They literally could have just killed me on attacks. Oh my god. They could have just shot down one of my blockers and gave the whole board trample with Lysette. They just wanted to prolong it and ruin my day. Or they didn't see the line. Either one of those. Good lord. That is a way to lose a game of Magic. Well, very similar to the first game. If we found our 6th mana for Rise of Exodus, at least one turn sooner. We were waiting on it for quite some time. Could have found a victory there, but you don't always draw those lands in time as we move into Game 3. Alright, here we are for Game 3 today. Hopefully not Game 3 of 3. I think this deck is a lot better than it's been performing. We've just had some really rough draws on the lands in the late game. Both of our previous games were super winnable if we hit a land on time. So just hoping for not a repeat of those games at the very least. Let's offer the trade of our 2/2 dorks. Alright. Trade the combat trick off here. I don't want to play Silencer until it might actually get through, or they cast something that learns a lesson. Combat Professor, yeah, that's pretty nasty. Juke's a great draw here. We can kill that Combat Professor. I would love to. Now they're down to 3 cards in hand. We'll see what they've got. Another Blood Age General, 2 mana 2/2. Go and play the Laureate and a Silencer. Just gonna name Heated Debate the most likely removal spell. It's a common removal spell, the best common removal spell. And they're 2 colors. Alright. Neither of us is really doing much right now. Guess I can Elocution the Silencer so it has the counters to get through the general here. It's not great, but this card isn't doing anything else right now. And then the Silencer gets to keep attacking in. Expel, well, that's pretty rough. There's the Guiding Voice off the top, very good draw. Grab whatever lesson they need to learn. It's going to be Expand Anatomy, just start beating us down with a Blood Age General. It can hit us for 6 here as well, because it can tap and buff itself, which is very cute. When you give your Blood Age General Vigilance. Silver Quill Pledge Mage. Could pick up an Umbral Juke with Assistant. Guarantee that's my play next turn. Yeah, against the 5/5, I do need to kill this thing very quickly. But they might top deck a creature, and then I'm just killing whatever they play this turn instead. Of course. Alright, I guess we're killing a 3/3. But I can have a 3/1 and a 2/1 block the Blood Age General. Combat Professor is a very strong draw here. I think I have to double block the General and Juke to kill the Mentor. We then take 0 damage this turn. And Laureate becomes a 4/4 flyer to block Combat Professor. And then we're both down to 1 creature, but mine is bigger. And we have to Juke and make Pledge Mage a flyer pre-combat so that when it dies we get 2 +1/+1 counters instead of 1. Or alternatively, they could choose to sack the Blood Age General, and then my creatures don't die this turn if they want to try to stop the Laureate from triggering, but that's fine for us. Because then we still have these blockers to block their other stuff. Alright, cool. So Laureate is a 4/4 facing down a 3/3 flying Vigilance. And we'll see how we draw. Alright, Campus is a start because we get to scry every turn with that. Hit for 4. Let's see, what is the math here for the race? 9, 8, 5, 5, 1, 1. Kill them first, but barely. And they're drawing cards first and have 1 card in hand. But all they need is a combat trick or a removal spell to make holding up Laureate play a lot worse for us. Ah, it's super close. Send that in though. How many cards do we have that are more than, let's see, 4 mana plus tap Campus? That'd be 5 of our mana before we draw. We'd only have 2 mana up to play whatever. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 mana cards. I think we're just going to be scrying in their upkeep. I do have some really big, like 6, 7 mana cards. They didn't play a land this turn, we're probably dead. Means they probably hit gas. How many combat professors did their draft pod give them? That's 3, less than halfway through the deck? Good grief. It's quite the card. We're down to 4. Time to put that stop on our upkeep. Three men or less. Do I have anything that requires double black or double white? No. Not stop these flyers. I'm just going to die to a removal spell now. Not even off the top, they just already had it. Well, swords doesn't kill me because I gain life, actually. Probably the only removal spell they could have had where I'd actually survive one more turn. Scry to the top, never a good sign. Oh my god, I don't think I have anything I can draw in my deck that's going to beat 2 creatures right now. Definitely not for 4 or less mana. Silver Quill Command wouldn't do it, but that would be the closest. It's the best thing I have for 4 or less mana. I guess Hunt for Specimens barely? No, we can't scry here, because Hunt for Specimens would be 2 mana to play that, and then I'd still need the mana to cast the Introduction to Annihilation to not die. Yeah, and Silver Quill Command doesn't beat those, it just makes them sack one and then we get a chump blocker for the other one from our grave. Yeah, neither of those cards win the game. We gotta just draw blind and try to hit... Rise of Extus? 9 mana? Yeah, Rise of Extus into Pest Summoning. It's our only out. Well, let's see what we would have got. If I scryed, I would have got Closing Statement and we would have died. Kill one of those in the end step. Yikes. Alright. Well, you got to get some bad drafts in there at some point, but 0-3 is harsh. That is a rough one. I don't think this deck was nearly that bad, but it happens. We had some rough land draws. Couldn't hit our 6th land in the first 2 games, and then hit a lot more lands than our opponent in the last game. Never got to draw into our strongest card, our Silver Quill Command. Our Elocution was one of our weaker cards, didn't play very well. We drew it multiple times. Yeah, just hit a lot of filler instead of a lot of the good stuff on curve. Never cast a closing statement either. Yeah, just kind of awkward draws overall. Again, I don't think this is the greatest Silver Quill deck I've ever drafted. It's pretty far from it. We have some cards we'd really rather play other things. But I do not think that this deck was an 0-3 deck. I think the ideal deck list here probably drops these 5 cards for 2 more cheaper removal spells, like a Flunk and maybe another closing statement or something if we're super lucky. And then these 3 for like another Combat Professor, another good 3-drop creature like Pledge Mage or something. It's not that far off from a solid deck. It's pretty average. Got a well below average win rate there. Certainly can't win them all. It's going to be an 0-3 for the Premier Draft today, and now I'm monumentally salty that the free Strixhaven draft is not on Arena, because the difference between losing 0 gems and losing 1450 is pretty monumental, and for some reason Midweek Magic is still not up. RIP. Well, that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, you can always stick around. You can like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you more of these videos in your recommended feeds. If you'd like to hang out with me live, I'm live a couple times a week on the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.